Brighton, Watford the week after that, then got another bit of an easy one with Liverpool. But no, that said, I mean, Harry Kane and Son, next 2 games, easy-ish games that Spurs should be winning.
Yep.
Worth looking at both Son and Kane, I think.
Good shout.
Wolves, Watford, 2-0 to Wolves.
Yeah, wow. Wolves, top 6 team.
Apparently.
Anyone got any thoughts on Matt Doherty?
Yes, I
Got
actually...
15 points, didn't he?
Last season, he was
Goal,
a big
top
pick.
bonus points.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big fit
Last season, he was a massive pick for fantasy managers. He was one of the top picks for defenders. And he was back on the score sheet and creates the second as well.
Yeah, it's funny that he got that second assist. Did he get the assist for the second?
Yes.
Because he crossed it and then Johnny headed it against the
He did not.
defender.
Fact
and then
check.
he went in.
Fact checker.
Back. I
Well,
thought
he
something was off
was
there.
involved in creating the second. That's what I should say.
He
was
did get
involved,
maximum
yes.
bonus points.
He was getting up the pitch, playing like a wing back, like he was last season. So Wolves could be on the turning point. You know, like I said about Everton.
But
Everton
Watford are a poor team. I still
They
think
are.
they're a poor team.
They're
That's a
doing
good-
really.
that's a good point.
They're in a bad
I
time.
would, if Wolves had lost that game, it'd be worrying for them.
I keep sticking up for Watford for some reason. I keep thinking that they're not going to be in a relegation battle, but I think they already are.
But no, just before, the reason I ask about Matt Doherty is he will never be on my team.
Why is
he will
that?
never be in.
Why?
A
doesn't like Tom again.
few years ago, he actually played for Hibs.
Did he?
Yeah, one of the club's biggest games in history, which we won't repeat. We won't go into the scoring of that.
Fair enough.
And actually, after that, he said, "I don't even care that we got beat." He left the club on loan, and he said that his fans didn't deserve.
Right,
Kane,
okay,
but
so we
he doesn't
do not
care,
like-
so we don't like Matt Doherty.
He came out and said
with
that.
you.
Yeah,
We're
on
with you.
Twitter, he said he couldn't care
Terrible.
less.
We're with you on that.
There you go.
John McGinn fanboy.
And all the Hibs fans as well. We're in
Not-
support.
Not much else to say about Watford.
We're in the
then,
green
right?
top tonight.
We're
No,
staying away
we-
from Watford.
Absolutely staying away from Watford. I think for Wolves, if you do want to get someone, Doherty, after what we've just heard,
Yeah.
you can't have someone in your team like that.
No,
That's just
yeah,
not
stay away from
acceptable. Yeah.
Leicester, Newcastle. I think we should move on to the big 5-0, the big Super Sunday.
Can't not talk about
Mr.
Jamie
Vardy.
Vardy.
Mr. Vardy.
Honestly, he
Oh,
is.
England
yes,
international. No, he's retired.
Yeah.
He's on fire, isn't he?
But
Vardy?
credit to Brendan Rodgers, former Liverpool manager. I was glad when they got rid of him in the end, but can't discredit that he brings a flair of attacking football, and
They look
Vardy's
absolutely brilliant. They get the ball out wide.
Vardy's thriving in that environment. And
Without Maddison as well.
Without old Maddie, 44 points in total, and staggeringly, only 9% of FPL managers actually picked him.
Really?
Vardy, is that right?
Jamie
you know,
Vardy, only 9% of managers.
9%.
Well, I'm one of the 9.
You've got him, haven't you?
There you
John
go.
McGinn fanboy, yeah.
He's on the money.
It's a great pick.
I've got a question for you lads here.
Go on.
It's an interesting one. Vardy this weekend, he scored 85 goals now in the Premier League. Who has he now scored more goals than in the
Cristiano
Premier League?
Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been reading
Yeah,
my
he
articles.
took his time.
And he's done it in
Yeah.
how many games fewer, do you know?
One game quicker, isn't he?
He scored 1 goal more in 13 games fewer
Really?
than Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
That's quite
great
a
stat.
record. And why is he
Excellent.
not still playing for England? Jamie Vardy, if you're listening, come out of retirement,
Yes,
go play
we
for
need
England.
you, boy.
Yeah.
We need you.
John
We've had
is
enough
on
of
for England.
Beavis.
But he's on fire, right?
John is
and
on the
I think
podcast.
his first goal,
Get
the
your own
keeper
flight.
should have maybe done a bit better. He shouldn't be beaten from that angle. But it's a great finish.
It's true.
Vardy does, isn't
It's
it?
true.
Like,
Yeah.
Because
the way the pace he puts on to get to that ball and he always slips it across and
Yeah.
from tight. Is
Let's remember though, a lot of his goals were penalties. We claimed it last week, and also his first goal, dreadful goalkeeping.
Yeah.
And I know you've got Dubravka in goal.
another howler.
terrible.
It's awful.
But Newcastle just looked like they stopped. They looked like they were not interested.
When they went down to 10
Yeah.
men, they
Yeah,
were,
I think
they were
after
Mahrez
half
went
time,
down.
Leicester had 69% of possession in the match, which is a hell of a lot of possession.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
they just chance after chance, and I was very impressed. I think they deserve where they are in the league.
Definitely. I mean, they had
and credit to
they had
Rodgers.
Pereira playing for him in midfield.
lots of credit to Rodgers.
Indeed, he got on a score sheet as well. That's a sign of a good team. If you're winning 5-0, Newcastle have done pretty decent since the start of the season, considering all the challenges that they've got up against them at the moment. To come away 5-0 at home is a fantastic result. Again, we can't say enough about Vardy. That's without one of their best players as well, Maddison.
Oh yeah, that was frustrating, wasn't
You
it?
had Maddison in your team, right? Jimmy?
Yeah, I shouldn't have gone with him, mate. I made a mistake there. I brought him in the Wildie, and I actually cracked under the pressure of listening to you boys talk about him last week. And I knew he was injured, but it said he had a 50-50. And I was actually, it was a toss-up for me between him and Yarmolenko. He scored, yeah, him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So I'm owed points. But what I'd like to say last thing about Newcastle there, they went down to 10 men and they didn't look like, to me that was the reason they lost so heavily. Don't feel like they're a team that's going to get beaten 5-0 every week. I think they are in the relegation zone. They're in 19th. And directly after the game, good old Lee Dixon, he got fantastic opinions. Anyway, he come out and said that Newcastle will struggle this year and he thinks they could go down. I think that's reacting to a 5-0 defeat when you've got 10 players. I personally don't think Newcastle will go down. I do think they'll struggle.
I think that's why Steve Bruce is there, though. He's the sort of manager who's going to try and guarantee steady the ship. He's a bit like Sam Allardyce. I think he's probably in some ways a better manager than Sam Allardyce.
He's no Benitez, though.
He's no Rafa Benitez.
Big problem is that Newcastle only scored 4 goals this season.
I don't want to compare it to Man United, Jimmy, and I'm not in any way, shape or form.
But you're going to. Let's have it. Rip it.
What I mean is the backroom stuff that's going on. The Mike Ashley thing, it's the same United with the chairman making these decisions.
The statement.
There's no control in that backroom making these football decisions. It doesn't make sense. I hope that Newcastle United stay up.
I mean, I personally, one of them, I do like Newcastle. I think they add something.
I like the Jordan.
Great
night out.
Okay, gents, excellent. So that is every single game covered. Unbelievable. Thank you ever so much for listening to part 1. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back for part 2 of a rambling from the dugout. Welcome to Left Back in the Changing Room.
Way!
Part 2. Hi listeners, thank you for joining us again. We are moving into part 2. We've got a rambling from the dugout to kick us off. It is Barry McDonald that's dialed in this week from Aberdeen. Barry, take us away with your question.
Hello there. So when I was picking my team this week, I was looking at my defence. And when I was analysing my defenders, I realised that I ended up with 3 players from the one club. And what I kind of wondered is, are you better to just go for that and go for the point blank and hope that they get a clean sheet across the board? Or is it better to spread the love per se and mix it up a bit and put a few players from different clubs and hope that, someone's going to get that clean sheet, at least one, maybe 2 of them? What's your guys' thoughts? I appreciate it this week. I'm a big fan of the show, by the way. Next time you're up in Inverness, we'll go for a haggis supper.
A haggis supper? I'm there, mate. Oh, wow, that's quite the offer.
That's a great question.
Good question.
It's basically, are you going to put your eggs in one basket, double up in your defence, or hedge your bets? It's interesting because I started the season with Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold, 2 of the most expensive defenders in the game. Robertson was more expensive than Van Dijk. I thought that was going to work. But then obviously Alisson got injured. Liverpool were not keeping the clean sheets that I expected them to keep, and it went against me, and I've kind of reversed that decision. So it's a tough one. I personally think it's better to hedge your bets and spread across the big teams.
But when I did my wildcard last week, I actually ended up with those 2 as my centre backs. My defenders. Alexander-Arnold and Robertson.
It paid off, right?
It's paid off the last 2 weeks. They both got 6 this week. Last week they got 7 and 8 respectively, I think. So
I think those 2 are a little bit different because naturally they're going to either get you a goal on the odd occasion or they're definitely going to contribute with an assist.
Double points.
I think with central defenders in clubs, so I had Van Dijk being Neil Van Dijk, and I had to.
Of course, you did.
Of course, Neil Van Dijk
and I took him out because we were letting in goals, so naturally he wasn't getting the points that we deserved, and therefore having multiple Liverpool defenders in my team wasn't working for me. So. Yeah,
do you think if Adrian hadn't come in, Liverpool would have got more clean sheets?
I think so. I think Alisson gives the back four that massive boost of confidence. Really, he's
Alisson.
Yeah,
there
you go.
Alisson.
There you go. You got to say it right.
Got to be French.
You got to say it right.
Got to say it like French.
Got to say it. He's Brazilian, isn't he?
He's Brazilian. Yeah, exactly. That's all right.
I'll tell you what.
He's got a vineyard as well.
I hear what you're saying, and I think that's a brilliant question from Barry from Inverness. That's a very good question. But what I would say is, depends on a couple of things. I think it is a good idea to have 2 from the best defending team in the league, because they're probably going to get more clean sheets than all of the others together. Mm-hmm. But the other thing for me is it depends on what you're trying to achieve. Are you trying to achieve the most points possible, which I guess everyone is, right? But where are you at this point in the season? Are you behind the guy that's top of your league, like I am?
Yeah.
If that guy's got 2 Liverpool players, I've got to start thinking, hang on, if I don't have 2 Liverpool defenders and they do well, every time they do well, he is stretching his league.
But then how do you differentiate yourself?
Well, you go with maybe the goalkeeper and 1 defender, or do you, and you've still got another 9 players to differentiate yourself as well.
And I think
You're up at the back and aim for your alpha up front.
I think you've got to kind of, if you're trying to catch up in the league, you've got to try and secure it and be similar to what someone else has got if they're at the top. But you do need
to catch up, aren't we?
Yeah, so you have two that are the same, and then you've got 9 that are perhaps different. I think that does come into it a little bit at this stage of this. I know it's early stages, but if you don't make a move now, you're going to fall further behind if there's someone at the top who has got, say, the 2 Liverpool defenders who are both getting assists and clean sheets, because that makes it even worse for you.
Yeah, and the good thing is you can always put in maybe a relatively cheap defender, to be honest, in your team, whether it's in the starting lineup or on your bench. So, for example, I had Soyuncu and Kelly both got clean sheets. They may not play. They may not get clean sheets every single game.
Yeah, both cheap. And they might,
if they're on your bench, the odd week you can kind of transfer them in where you think you're going to get a clean sheet and points from them, or that one time where you need to play your bench boost, they actually might provide you vital points. So 100% on the money and support that decision.
And if you guys were going to get 2 defenders from one team, who would you be going with? Which team?
My instinct at first was going to say Man City, but it'd still be Liverpool, to be honest, just because of the whole Robertson, Alexander-Arnold. Even Van Dijk can get a goal every now and then, or even an assist. He gets forward, especially when Liverpool need a goal. When it's 0-0, Van Dijk gets forward and gets up for the corners. Interestingly, the top 5, you've got Pereira, Alexander-Arnold, Lundstram, Pieters, and then Robertson for the top 5 scoring defenders of the season so far, which is interesting, right?
Yeah,
and then guess who's number 6? Ward for Crystal Palace.
Joel Ward is a very good player.
He's a cracking player, but then just after that, Van Dijk and Matip. So straight away, you've got Liverpool in that, within that top 10, all their back line.
And then
are in there.
Let's flip that on its head slightly and look at James mentioned there about, are you just trying to match what the people in front of you have? And let's look at the top selected players. You've got Van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Lundstram, Kelly, and Diagne.
Right.
All up there. So the 2 Liverpool there. If you're looking to differentiate yourself, stay away from them. If you're looking to piggyback,
there you go, Barry. Final parts there.
No, I think you've summarised that brilliantly there, and I think it's going to be an interesting next few weeks, especially for the defensive picks.
Well, thank you guys for considering my question. I will be going out catching the highest now for you. Looking forward to you.
We're looking forward to that, Barry. Thank you,
Barry.
my man.
Thank you, Barry.
Right, boys. So that was an interesting question from Barry.
Who's that?
What's that? We're moving into the week's coming games, but what is that I see on the horizon? Coming into the harbour? Is that Captain Russ?
Captain Russ.
He's got a carrot. He's got Captain.
He's got his carrots.
Bring in the carrots.
Finally here. How
Welcome, Captain.
You heard us mention Spurs, didn't you? And you just showed up.
Yeah, I literally just I put the handbrake on, swung in, and
the handbrake. He swung the boat in. Captain, don't mess around. He's dishing out the carrots.
This is no ordinary boat. This is Anyway, I'm here.
It's one of those Tesla boats.
Great to have you back,
Tesla.
Captain.
Okay, Captain, tell us about Brighton v Spurs. But if you wanted to start with your thoughts on Harry Kane's performance from last week, feel free to do so.
Well, it's good to see him not scoring on his arse, for starters, which is great. They did all right. I mean, considering we were one man down as well. It's just the defence though is completely. It's not right, is it?
Loris had a good game.
Apart from the fact that goal that he scored, Jesus, how many times has he done that as well?
We were saying that in the first half. He's an absolute liability with those, but he made some good saves. But then, that back heel.
But how many times has he done that? It's just ridiculous. It's he does it so often. So surely he must have been told so many times.
Why was he even playing this week? Because last week he didn't play. Was he injured the week before, or?
I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know what Pochettino's doing at the moment. I think if there's one thing I want to talk about very quickly is how unstable Spurs is at the moment. I think the whole thing behind the scenes, that obviously there's problems with contracts, there's this like an unrest at Spurs at the moment, and I think we've seen the cracks appear, and I think it's getting worse and worse, and like we're losing that united unity that like we had like last season.
The team spirit is disappearing.
And I think Pochettino's mind's elsewhere. He seems a bit flaky. I mean,
I think it's on the Real Madrid job.
You know, it's his job to pull the team together and like